This is the Leo Climaco Podcast.
They knocked down that whole building on Atlantic and A1A.
Yes, you're talking east.
East, yes.
That's because we're losing the surface lot across from the Briny.
Oh, is that what's happening?
A project was approved there years ago, a big project, and it's going to be built.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so it's not net. We're still not going to be in a good situation for parking. We're also going to lease the where the church was along the intercoastal, just west.
Yes, right there,
That is
right before the bridge.
That will be public parking also soon.
Okay.
And we're bringing the water taxi back to Pompano.
Really?
That's exciting.
By 1333.
1333.
Is that? Hold on. Where the on 11th Street?
So what we're doing is you had a water taxi, but
Right.
we just had our local stops really, so it didn't go anywhere. We signed a deal with the Fort Lauderdale water taxi, so we are going to go all the way up to Naughty Dog and Cap's Place
That's so
in
cool. I love
Lighthouse
Naughty Dog.
Point.
Yes.
And we will connect all the way down to the Fort Lauderdale system through the New River and Hollywood, so you will be able to use, the Pompano stops
cool,
to connect all those areas.
When's that starting?
We have one more reading of it, so we have to pass things twice.
Okay.
So we passed it once. It's on our commission agenda next Tuesday, and once that passes, it's in their hands to get it started. I'm sure there's some infrastructure they have to do and some marketing and sales and all that to get it up and running. But I'm hoping by the end of the year.
Very cool. The park on the beach that just got redone.
The new playground.
The new playground.
The big boulder's gone.
Yes.
Good or bad for you?
I prefer it.
You prefer it gone?
A little bit, just because I have small kids.
Yeah. It was. I've been right there with you.
Yes.
The debates we've had over that giant rock.
Yes, exactly. Looks beautiful.
Yes.
Looks really cool. And the new firehouse also, I believe it is.
The Ocean Rescue building.
The Ocean Rescue, yes. Super cool. I love how little things are just being redone, It makes me feel good because it shows that the city cares. It shows that people are actually thinking about these things and investing time and money to make it better. It's really cool.
Well, we have a 5-year capital improvement plan, and then we also had a GEO bond that passed back in 2018. So between the GEO bond funds and our capital improvement plan, we've been able to make a lot of improvements to Pompano in a pretty short time period.
Yes.
So our fire stations, the pier, some of these streetscape works are all part of the, bridges, we're all part of the GEO bond. So there are big capital projects that needed to be done, and the voters passed that, and we've done a good job getting those projects completed. There's not without some bumps along the way, but certainly we've done a good job executing on that GEO bond overall and bringing these new facilities and new amenities to the people.
Right. I just love how things work. So I'm from New York, where construction will last 10, 15 years. I lived right by the BQE in Queens, and that highway/bridge that I live by was in construction for about 25 years. It just recently finished a couple years ago.
I lived in Boston. Is the Big Dig even done?
Yes.
I lived there in 2004, and I'm not sure it's done.
So it's really nice to see construction in a city that gets planned, approved, and executed in a timely manner.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
Did New York ever do the 2nd Avenue subway?
No, it got canceled.
It canceled. See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They started it,
Okay.
never finished it.
Yeah, when I lived there, it was a discussion.
It's a huge thing, yeah.
Why did that get canceled?
I'm guessing probably way too much money. I recall there was a time where the city and the MTA were fighting over budget and money, and I think that got scrapped in order to make other adjustments that were more priority.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's a constant back and forth, right? There's limited money and
so much to do.
Yeah.
How do you get it all done?
Yeah. So we are very focused on this Fort Lauderdale discussion, debate about a bridge or a tunnel over the New River for the railroad tracks. So because there's big implications to Pompano for that. So
how would that work?
Well, How does what work?
The tunnel itself.
So this is in Fort Lauderdale under the New River. So they've had estimates for both, and there's different
Got it.
factions that have different beliefs as to what the right answer is.
Right.
Both because of the cost. There's trade-offs, right? So a
Right.
tunnel, then traffic doesn't have to stop. With the bridge, it does. So it's certainly that would be a more seamless option, but extremely expensive.
Extremely.
So, but that matters to us here in Pompano because we need to make sure that there's some connection over the New River to get the commuter rail up north to the northern parts of the county. So if depending on what happens there, they can't stop just south of the New River and call it a day. We need to connect Deerfield and Pompano and Oakland Park and those areas to it. So we're watching that pretty closely.
Very interesting. When's that going to be resolved or
I don't,
decided?
That's a Fort Lauderdale issue in the county, so I don't know, but like I said, there's implications for us in our city, and with the idea is there's a new commuter rail coming to the eastern tracks, so I call it kind of like a tri-rail replacement, but on the eastern tracks where the bright lines are. So that's going to put a lot more train traffic east, but a lot more options for getting north-south in the county. But everything takes forever.
But it still moves a lot faster than most big cities.
Maybe.
Like you would think that a small city would move even slower, but actually moves relatively quickly.
For things that we control,
Right.
buildings and stuff. But this is one of those where we are at the mercy of the county and all these other forces too. So in that, we're working on a transportation master plan in the city, and when I sit down with the consultants, they're talking about things that are going to happen in 2030 and 2040, and I'm like, that's great, but how do we help people today? Because we have issues now. So.
Speaking of Brightline, why are there so many accidents?
There are a lot of accidents. I feel terrible for the the conductors of the Brightline, and I feel terrible for our first responders who have to respond to these situations so frequently.
It's very interesting.
I think they call it the flat line, which is not saying good things. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a combination of things. I think people try to beat trains.
Yes.
They don't want to sit in traffic. They're frustrated, so they think they can beat it. And if it's a freight train, maybe you could have. But these come so fast. I think there's some part of it that is probably suicide. You hear that. Yeah. So I think it's a combination of things. I always worry that someone with that Atlantic Dixie mess there with all the traffic is going to get stuck there.
Yes.
So that's one of the things that keeps me up at night. Just being stuck in that gridlock when something happens.
Yeah, it's very scary.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Have you taken the Brightline? Have you gone up to Orlando or anything?
I have not, but I'm considering it though.
Yeah. I've heard people who take it to Orlando really enjoy it because they can actually go to a work meeting if they need to. They can get work done on the train and get back. Locally, we don't have a stop in Pompano, so you either have to drive to Fort Lauderdale or West Palm. It's not super convenient.
Right. I think it'll be better when it goes to Tampa. And that's really cool because then you go to Tampa to Miami within one train. I want to ask you, we got pretty lucky this year with hurricanes. We got really lucky. It's probably a selfish question because I'm right on the the evacuation line by where I live. What are the real concerns about a hurricane hitting our area? What would that look like?
So we got lucky here in Pompano and on the East Coast, but Florida
got destroyed.
Yeah, the West Coast. So I think
could that happen here?
Yes. So look at what happened there, and you can tell what would happen here. We are a little different. We don't have as many of the low-lying bays. Storm surge would still be an issue, but it would look a little different here, I think. But we have evacuation zones, and it would be really critical that people evacuated if they were told to, just like
Right.
on the West Coast, because
Yeah.
first responders might not be able to get to you.
For sure.
We would have storm surge issues, wind issues. So it would look similar to what happens over there. And it only takes one. It only
Right.
takes the wrong one or the wrong location and the right combination of factors. So
Right.
it's really important that people stay prepared and vigilant. And I think that gets harder over time when it doesn't happen. When there are
Right.
close calls, but it doesn't.
It's like crying wolf.
So everyone's like, I'm ready. Whatever,
Right.
it's not coming, hurricane party, a couple days off. And that's happened. Like, I know my kids had 2 days off of school and it was beautiful. It rained and flooded
was.
days before that. The weather was
Correct.
terrible, but
The
during the
day
storm.
of, it was beautiful.
Yes.
So weird.
Yeah, so people are, I think, a little bit complacent about all of it, but it only takes one. And our city is very prepared. We gave out, 15,000 sandbags, I think, this time. They weren't
I saw
necessary,
that. I
so
drove
hopefully
right by
people
there that
saved
day
them.
by the airfield.
Yeah, so we did mobilize that, which we don't do unless we think there's a risk of flooding. So
Right.
people came out and got those. Obviously, they weren't needed, so hopefully they saved them for the next time. But the city itself is prepared for the situation, but we need to ensure that people are prepared. So it would be, it could be potentially devastating depending on what type of storm it is and what happens. We've seen storms that sit in one place and just dump rain on for days.
Right.
So really, every storm's different.